This is Longbox Review, Episode 7. Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com. And with us again is Travis.
Okay. Just let you know that sentence just drug out forever for me. I don't know. The reverb. Anyway, yes, this is Travis from Longfellow's Thoughts at longfellowsthoughts.wordpress.com.
Did you just say Longfellows?
Did I? I may have. I'm tired.
Why don't you say that again? We don't want to confuse people. You talk about comics, not the poet.
Is that right? Oh, yeah. You know what? Actually, I don't like Longfellow, but...
Oh, really?
Yes. Okay. Yes, this is Travis at Oddfellow's Thoughts at oddfellowsthoughts.wordpress.com.
All right. Today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to start off with some Fan Expo news coming out of Canada. And then Travis and I wanted to talk about some of the last DC Comics issues from the, I don't know, what do you call it, the old universe?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess.
And then hopefully we'll get to talk about some new Marvel comics that have just come out. We'll see how it goes, how much time we spend. But let's start off with the Fan Expo news. Yesterday, Travis and I talked about the news that the Justice Society of America will be returning to the new DC universe.
Yay!
Do you think that maybe DC has... Do you think that they had planned this all along, or they just kind of put it up to the forefront and announced it yesterday because of the fan response to the JSA not being part of the new 52?
Unfortunately, I think it's the latter. I think that they, I'm sure at some point they were going to bring them back this fast. Yeah, I don't know. And it worries me that I think this is a knee-jerk reaction. To me, it doesn't feel planned. I don't know. Maybe it is, but to me it doesn't feel planned, and it scares me. I get excited about this whole new DC universe thing. And then they do stuff like this that makes me go, oh, are they really going to stay on board? Are they really going to have the single message, the new, everything's new? Or are we going to start flaking out? And to me, I'll get this comic. I'm sure I will. But are they flaking out by doing this? I don't know.
Now, what do you mean by flaking out?
This gets, well, what I mean by flaking out, just that they're like, they had an original plan. They're going to stick with these 52, at least for 6 months or whatever, hell or high water. And, then of course they get to San Diego Comic-Con and the whole message gets railroaded by the gender in comics issues. And so they have to spend a lot of their energy talking about that. So they have to figure out how they're going to fix that. And then there's all this uproar about all these characters that they have just disappeared or fell off the map that they have no intention of using or whatever. It sounds like, and now suddenly they're all going to start showing up again. I don't know. Does that seem like a plan to you?
Well, I think that, well, at the very least, I mean, they were going to consider it. So it's just a matter of when they would roll it out again, because they know that the JSA titles have been very popular over the last few years.
Uh-huh.
And the characters too, and they have a legacy that they want to maintain with those characters. Although I sometimes want to question that as to why they do that. I love those characters. I fell in love with the Justice Society characters, when I first started collecting comics and I found out about this whole multiverse thing. I'm like, what? What is this? What is Earth 2 and all this craziness? And then they started doing
Sure.
Not started, but they did the annual JLA JSA thing. And it's like, this is really awesome. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
So obviously there's an appeal there. So I think it was just a matter of time. It's just Yeah, exactly. Why announce this now? Is it, like you say, a knee-jerk reaction to the fan stuff? But then again, how is that really a bad thing? That, if let's assume for a moment that they did this because of the fan reaction. Is that really a bad thing that the company is listening to the fans and the people
No,
who are supporting their product?
no, I'm not saying that. I just hope that. Of course, they haven't told us when it's coming out, so
Right.
it could be 6, 8 months before we actually see the thing.
Mm-hmm. Or longer.
I just hope, right. I just hope that it is well planned out before it starts being executed. If all this other stuff has supposedly been all well planned out, so everybody's on the same page, we're not dipping our toes back into all the old that we've supposedly gotten, not necessarily gotten rid of, but moved away from. We shouldn't be immediately moving back into it. I don't know. I don't have a problem with the multiverse. I love it. I collected every issue of the original Infinity Inc. and it was all set in, the other, Earth 2 and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. If you're trying to clean up your universe, which is what it feels kind of like what this whole relaunch is about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that almost immediately start muddying the waters again? I mean,
Yeah.
I know you said on Twitter, oh, it's cake. Yeah, it's cake for you and me, but is it cake introduced to new people? I mean, yeah, you can just accept, oh, there's multiple universes out there. Oh, okay. But at the same time, then you start getting a bunch of magazines, a bunch of books running where you've got the same characters, kind of, running in two universes. You've got this old-timey Flash and this old-timey Green Lantern. Of course, we don't know what characters.
I love
love
how you say old-timey.
Well, and then you've got these supposed modern and up-to-date 90s versions of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it get reconfusing all over again?
Yeah, I don't think it's as confusing as you might think. Maybe a little bit, but
I just think what it's doing is it's reintroducing the things that they felt to me like some of the stuff they were trying to trim out. Besides making everybody younger.
Yes, you're right. But I think setting the JSA on Earth 2
is less confusing than where they're at right now.
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, you have to start the premise of they want the JLA to be the premier team of the regular DC universe.
Yep.
So you can't have heroes before them. The JSA cannot exist on whatever Earth is this new Earth? I don't know. Whatever the Earth is. So you can't have these heroes before them. But so you have the multiverse, you have the JSA on Earth 2. So you appeal to the people who love the JSA. They can still have those characters. You can still have these cross-dimensional team-ups like we used to have back in the 60s and 70s. So that old fans would like that as well. And because they're on different Earths, they're somewhat segregated, and so the people like us who like those characters and like to see maybe some interactions between the two universes, we get that. But then the people who are new coming into the DC Comics, they can stick with the JLA or I'm sorry, Justice League. It's not JLA anymore, but the new DCU. So I think it works on both ends. But you're right. Are they trying to do too much in related areas that it will fragment the buying, the folks of us who are buying the comics?
I don't know. For me, it leaves me with the feeling, and I don't know if it matters to the comic book reading world at large, it leaves me with the feeling that this isn't as organized as what it,
Well, there's bound to be a certain amount of chaos in all of this, no matter how well they plan it out. They are, like I said, they seem to be listening to the fans and reacting to that, which is a good thing to a certain degree, and possibly, they might. I think what you're suggesting is that they're kind of regressing in their plan, the public plan of what they're doing, and maybe a little bit, but in this case, I wholeheartedly support it.
Sure. Okay. That's fine too. I just wish they would get a better spokesperson to relay that to us than what happens.
Was that from Didio, that news?
I don't know. I don't know who.
I tried looking it up and I didn't find it.
I just happened. What I heard about it first was I happened to be looking at the DC's, the source, and it said, oh, hey, this, the JSA is coming back, but it's coming back in some new way, and then later on in the day, I that's when I heard that they were going to be in a completely different reality. Now, granted, we don't, like I said before, we don't know when this released. Would this make more sense to come out after the supposed Grant Morrison multiverse book comes out?
The Multiversity Project. Ooh, that's a good
Yeah.
idea. I like
Wouldn't
that.
it make more sense coming after that? But
See,
I don't think
what
it
I
will.
was thinking was that so the Justice League comes out this week, right? So Flashpoint ends, Justice League number 1 comes out, and so then we have, I think they said, or correct me if I'm wrong, the first 6 issues is going back and telling the basically the new origin story of the Justice League.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then it picks up in the modern day in the next, I'll say 6 issues for lack of any information. But the next arc will be whatever story they have in the modern time. And see, and as we were talking earlier about the whole JLA, I'm going to keep calling it JLA no matter what, team up, that would be an interesting, and I think a cool way to do this, the start of the second year of stories. And then that way, so within a year's time, we have the JSA back. They do a team up. That's how they introduce them, and then we have a new book in the following year. So, but I don't know if that's happening. It's just I thought that would be a cool way to do it. But I like your idea too, of the multiversity thing. But I think based on what I know of it, that's going to be well into next year sometime before we get that.
Well, I know.
And I don't think they're going to put off the JSA for that long.
No, or they wouldn't have announced it.
No.
Or I hope they wouldn't have announced it.
Although,
in fact, I would think
they announce a lot of things and then you have to wait. So.
Yeah, and they'd have to give Nicola Scott a job before that. So they can't have her sitting around for a year.
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess she could be working on comics for a year, but I can't imagine that either. Her working for a year and her work not seeing the light of day for that long. I don't know.
Yeah, I just looked at the source, and the only source, quoted source, is Eddie Berganza.
Yeah.
On there, so I don't know what the actual announcement was, but anyway, so the JSA is coming back. We'll see how that goes. But I'm looking forward to it. At least
I'm curious to see who's going to be on the team.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. What characters they're going to use, what time period they're going to set it in. I hope they don't go back to the World War II thing, although I kind of like that. But we'll see. The other thing I want to talk about, I think this was announced, the whole Jill Thompson doing an issue of The Shade, but I think that came out of Fan Expo. But what I want to talk about was the Shade series in general. So this is the thing, I think. Do you recall this, Travis? Was that initially announced at Emerald City?
It was.
Yeah. So then because I got real excited because that was my favorite character from the Starman series.
By 2 years ago?
Jim Robinson. Was it 2 years ago? Yes, it was.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Because Robinson wasn't at Emerald City Comic Con this last year. Right?
Really? Wait a minute. I'm rethinking that 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago, because 2 years ago it was, I'm going to be doing the JLA, and it's going to be this new team, and it's going to have all this great stuff, and then it slipped out, by the way, and it's, it slipped out that he was going to be doing that, and yeah. So it's taken 2 years for it to get off the ground.
I'm looking it up here. What's your opinion about the Shade 12-issue series that they're doing?
I tell you the truth, I don't have an opinion on it. I haven't read the first stuff.
You haven't read Starman?
Oh, I know. Isn't that horrible? No, I haven't.
See, okay, there's another idea I have for a podcast topic, is the stuff that you hear about that you should read and you haven't. But then read it and then we talk about it, right? So you never read Starman. That was an interesting and it's obviously well loved by a lot of people.
Right.
But I read it, and like I said, the whole Shade character part of it was the best thing about that series. So to hear that James Robinson is coming back to that is interesting.
Well, I know a lot of people are excited about it.
But it's also, considering how well James Robinson has done other books in the last few years, it's
Yeah, what's
also,
up with?
yeah, I'm really leery about this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting it because I haven't read the first thing yet. And I'm not getting it because, well, mostly because of that. And right now, he hasn't been doing a whole lot for me. Um, I'm both curious about all the artists that are going to be working on it, and at the same time turned off by that. Unless each of those issues are going to be telling me some sort of a different story, I'm getting fatigued with picking up books and then constantly looking different than the last time I looked at it. Not that I want my art all look the same, but I like to be able to pick up a consistent title, and then it changes to an arc, and then maybe it changes the way it looks and whatnot.
Hmm. Well, I like that idea though that they're gonna have different artists do this over the course of the year.
Even though it's, I guess I don't know what the story is, so I guess that's cool.
Well, I don't either, I like it when they do. I'm so used to this reading, like Sandman and stuff, some of the longer Vertigo series, especially, where
Uh-huh.
you'd have the same writer over the course of the whole series, but you get different artists for the various arcs, and I grew to like that a lot. So that idea just appeals
Well,
to me.
that appeals to me for an arc, but this is every single issue. So is every single issue going to be a
Is it
self-contained story?
is it every issue they have a different artist? I thought they were going to do maybe one or two issues or something.
Oh, I guess I don't know 100%. All I knew was when I read the first solicitation for it, didn't they basically imply that it was going to have multiple artists across it? And I don't know if it's 12 issues and you've got 6 or 7 artists. I mean, it's like the Bruce Wayne. Oh God, blank on the title. The one of him coming back from the past, getting shot back to the past and
The
moving
Return of
forward.
Bruce Wayne? Bruce Wayne?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah,
So
a different artist every issue.
right, I like that, and the reason I like that is because as a whole, each issue he was in a different era, so you could give it a different flavor. So that's fine.
Hmm.
And I guess for me it would be a matter of what's this story going to be about and whatnot. And if each telling us a different story about a different segment and whatnot, then obviously having different artists works great. But I guess I'm one of those people that believes that the writer should be writing for the artist, and so you should have some idea of what your artist's capabilities are. Therefore, you're writing a story for them and their style to some degree, aren't you?
Yeah.
And that's my well, but how do you do that then? If you're trying to tell a single story over a 6 or 12 issues or whatever, and every issue you've got a different, or every couple of issues you've got a different person with a different style doing it. I don't know.
Well, it'd be interesting to see at least. And like I
You'll have
said,
to tell me what it's like.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
See, for some
Yes.
reason, I thought you had read Starman and also liked that character, so that's why I brought it up.
Nope.
All right, well, let's move on to the next one. So the last thing I want to talk about from coming out of Fan Expo, I just read this morning, was the announcement of Alpha Flight will be an ongoing series now.
Yay.
Really? You think that's a good thing?
I think I like the characters. I collected them back when Alpha Flights first started out and whatnot. I just finished issue 3 last night of the miniseries. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I'm obviously gonna finish getting this
The 8
mini-
issues?
right? Yeah, and see how excited I am by it. I'm not put off by it. The nostalgia of it hasn't worn off yet, so we'll wait and see. I figured a couple more issues, the nostalgia of it will wear off, and then I can make a decision based on, is this just a good comic for being a good comic or a fun comic? Right now, it's fun for me just because
Yeah.
I can cruise down memory lane with it. So I guess.
Yeah. Well, I've been enjoying it to a certain degree, but I've not been wowed by it. So I was kind of liking the idea that they were going to have 8 issues and then it was done, and then maybe down the road they might start it up again. I'd take a look at it depending on who was involved. But yeah, I don't think I'll well, yeah, no. I was gonna say I don't think I'll continue with it, but it really depends on how that first arc, those first 8 issues ends. And they did say that they have a climax for the story in those 8 issues, and then they're just going to move on with issue 9 with a new story.
Well, I'd like to see them being a superhero team as opposed to, basically getting the crap kicked out of them.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
they're trying to figure out how to.
Yeah, actually be Alpha Flight.
Right.
Instead of reacting to all this stuff.
So I may, like I said, because it's an ongoing now, I may go past this first arc to see what that's like.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless I'm really disappointed with how this whole thing ends.
Well, and they also said too that coming, I don't know if they're going to introduce it between now with whatever issue, the last issue came out, was it 3 or 4? Probably 3. And issue 8, but they said going forward, like I said, I don't know if it's within these next few issues or if it's the next arc. Alpha Flight's going to discover that they're part of a larger group of heroes called the Commonwealth of Heroes. Because the Queen is actually, or Canada's part of
right.
Great Britain, right? So that's, huh?
Kind of, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, right, kind of. But so they're part of this larger group of things. So they're going to have Captain Britain in there, and some other I guess British heroes. So that actually really appeals to me because I like Captain Britain, and that's something that I don't think Marvel's really done successfully. Is introduce like more international heroes, other than Canadian ones. Wolverine being the primary one.
Right.
So I really like that idea. So we'll see how that goes. But so I guess you've convinced me I should stick around for the first few issues of the new arc anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So did you hear of any other news from Fan Expo that you wanted to bring up?
Nope. Those are the main things that I had heard.
Now, are we just haven't had time to look into it, or is that really just the big stuff coming out of Fan Expo as far as comics goes? I really haven't heard anything that was like, oh, this is really cool news.
I just haven't had time to really pay attention to it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other stuff that kind of interests me. I mean, they've announced that there are other creators working on stuff and whatnot that I find somewhat interesting and whatnot. But I think that has as much to do with the politics of the industry in some sense as it does anything else. So, and if we get off on that, I'll be talking for a long time and won't get to the stuff we want to talk about. So,
all right, well, let's move on.
Yes.
All right, so let's get into the final issues of some of the DC titles before the New 52 start up next week. We both read a bunch of them, but we do have several that we both read. So let's talk about those. Let's start off with Batman and Robin number 26.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't sound very good.
Well, I don't know.
So now, is this a series that you've read from issue 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so thinking of it in terms of how this series started out and how it's ended, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the fact it went from something that Grant Morrison was really interested in writing, and therefore that showed, to us ending with filler issues, right?
Yeah, so we had 2 or 3 issue arcs written by different people before we got to the final issues.
Right.
Or issue.
Well, the last 2 or 3 issues were written by Judd Wittick, and then we have.
Right. So you had the first arc was by somebody else.
Yeah.
And who I can't remember now. And then then they did the Judd Wittick. What's his name? The guy I hate so much. Jason Todd.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. Was that the last arc? And then we got 26.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. This issue, I like the art of it, but I wasn't real excited by the story.
Really?
No.
So what bothered you about the story?
Well, the fact that it's a French Joker, for one thing. Um, I think it's funny when the characters are telling us to just, you know, one character's telling us all the backstory instead of just, showing us the whole backstory. And the other character keeps saying, yeah, well, why don't you just let's get to the comic, like the second page or something like that. It's got, Night Runner kind of blah, blah, blah about what's all happened. And Robin's going, yeah,
That's right. Tell us what we
let's get
don't
to the
know.
story, please. I mean, that's what it felt like to me. It's like,
Well,
okay,
but
so you've got your own characters telling you to hurry up and get to the story. What does that mean? I mean,
well,
maybe
but we have to be we dumb Americans have to be schooled in French. We have to know what Les Jardins Noirs. And I know I said that really badly for anybody who knows French, I'm sure. But the Black Garden is the French equivalent of Arkham Asylum. We have to know this information, Travis, for the story to work.
Uh-huh. And I already knew that because I read the comic.
So wait, so the Black Garden has been in either this
Yes.
particular title before?
Yeah. Oh, I guess you're right. It has not. I apologize.
Is it in some other?
It was in the last Detective and Batman annuals. Because that's where the character Night Runner was.
Oh, that's right.
And they talked about it there.
Ah. But for those of us, well, I did read those annuals, but I totally forgot about the Black Garden thing. So.
Oh.
But I agree with you 100%. When you got a character telling the other characters, can we move on with this? We don't need this information. Yeah, that's bad story.
Did you really need to know that it was the equivalent of Arkham Asylum? Heck, as soon as they actually tell you what these characters or show you what the characters could do, it's pretty obvious that that's a prison that holds some pretty
you're right.
scary individuals.
It was
I like the villains.
Telling, not showing.
I like the villains, except for the guy at the end.
The man who laughs.
Yes, the man who laughs.
But it's an homage.
The Santa Man, yeah.
And what does he say himself? He says.
Yeah.
I never said my father was a particularly original thinker. Perhaps I'm only an imitation, an homage. Call it what you will.
Yeah, I liked it. And I liked him up until that point.
Well, part of the problem I have with it, though,
I love him throwing the orange, for instance, and looking like that picture and whatnot. I mean, I like all that. I thought this was us. I thought those parts of it were smart, but there's other parts in it that are just kind of were spoon fed and make me frustrated.
Yeah, I agree. It was a lot of telling, not showing. A lot of word vomit, if you will.
Yeah.
But back to the Joker homage. Part of the problem I had with that, and maybe this is not a fair comparison, because they're totally two different titles, although they're Batman related. But you have this guy who is the French Joker, whatever.
Right.
But then in the Batman Flashpoint miniseries, you have yet another Joker character, and I don't want to say exactly.
The Rocks.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was an awesome. That's probably my favorite Flashpoint tie-in series out of all the ones I've read.
Mm-hmm.
For what they did with that and the characters especially.
Right.
So I don't want to say too much about that in case someone hasn't read it, but
sure.
But you have these two Joker imitations. And so it kind of, while I enjoy the fact that this character even points out, oh yeah, I'm an imitation, so what?
Yeah.
But because I guess because I read both of those series relatively in the same time frame, it was less of this new character has less of an impact. Not to mention the fact that he's just a throwaway character for the final issue of a series, and we'll probably, well, I don't know. I was gonna say we probably won't see him again, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and these are all edited by the same people.
Mm-hmm.
So there should be, under the Batman blanket, there should be some consistency in all that, I guess.
Well, yeah, I would hope so, but yeah.
But I don't consider in the Flashpoint title, I don't consider that character to be that Joker to be a imitation or whatever. There's a difference. I don't think it's fair to compare the two.
But they're both Joker characters and have similar modus operandi.
I suppose. Or maybe I don't think it's fair to compare the two because they're light years apart from each other. Right?
Well,
That's
the origins of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, this is a digression, but and for those who haven't read the Batman Flashpoint, go read it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
uh, I find the Flashpoint Joker to be a much more interesting character because of how that character was created.
Yes.
Than anything I've ever seen of our our normal Joker.
For sure.
So, but then again, I don't think that would last in long-term continuity. I don't think that character would be able to. The appeal of the character, I don't think would be maintained as well as our Joker has.
So once we got past the shock value of it, we'd lose the appeal. I don't know.
But it depends on the writer, but
I think you can continue to tell some really interesting stories that grab much more on a personal level than the Joker of Norm.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, it takes a lot more effort to make there to be some sort of an investment in, our normal Joker.
So you couldn't really do this, but I was just thinking about this just now. If you could have our Batman, Bruce Wayne as Batman, and have that person that we're talking about who is the Joker, could you imagine the story potential?
Oh, yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be twisted. It would be really twisted.
Very twisted. Okay. So what do you think about these French Arkham Asylum characters that we got, besides the Joker one? Do you think that they have any of these characters have any kind of long-lasting appeal with us, the readers?
Doubtful. I like the what's his name? Skin Talker. That's kind of an interesting. His look was interesting. He was interesting. That's something that I could see there being some fun with.
Especially as a Batman villain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The other is the woman with the hand that turns things to crystal. Nah, right. I don't think that's going anywhere.
Right.
The guy that can do the illusions.
We've seen that before. Really?
Is that it? Is that basically it? There's basically
no. There's the guy who's got the crystal head.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The lover of the lady who turns things to crystal.
Oh, yeah, that's right. She turned his head to crystal.
Id, I think is what his name was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he
yes.
Both secretes the pheromones or whatever, and yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, I think you're right.
Not to say that somebody can't take those characters and make something more of them. I'll be surprised if we see them anymore.
So what I was trying to get at though was a lot of this is just throwaway. A lot of the story is throwaway. They for some reason they wanted to end it with another issue. A single issue. Why couldn't they have just ended it? After the Jed Winnick run. Or had they I'm sure they announced the new 52 by then, so
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I saw this cover because the cover interested me. I can't remember if I saw this cover before we knew the 52 was coming or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, the reason I got it was just I stuck with it, the title,
finishing the collection out. Yeah.
Yeah, to finish it out, and then I saw the cover too, and I'm like, well, that's interesting looking. Let's see how it goes, and then the thought of, well, yeah, there's a lot of these that are all of them are ending. So why not stick around with a few of them? And this is one I chose just to see how it would go.
See what the swan song was.
Yeah. Exactly. So as far as a swan song, it wasn't much of a song, was it? It was more of a screech.
It was a dud.
Although I have to admit, at the very end, when you get to the reveal of what this French Joker did to his father, that's
pretty awesome.
That was pretty cool. And then I really liked, and I have to admit, I'm dumb sometimes. Having been an English major in college, you think I would pick up on this stuff a lot sooner, but I did not. The whole Dada thing at the end.
Oh, yeah.
I got to that last page. I'm like, oh my
hilarious.
God, that's so funny. And then I thought, well, you idiot, why didn't you pick up on that from the first page?
Right. First word, Dada. And
yeah. I mean, they told you the ending at the very first.
Smart, but I picked up on it immediately because I knew it had to do with France. But anyway.
Yeah, see, exactly. So it's French. You got the cover.
Yeah.
I
Well, there's
it totally
smart things
went
in
over
this.
my head.
That's it. There's smart things in this book.
Yeah.
And I like David Hein as a writer, actually.
Mhm.
I've read lots of his stuff that I enjoy quite well. And like I said, there's smart stuff in this book. But it didn't get executed completely well. There are bits and pieces of it that obviously, like my complaints about the fact that they spend the first page telling us a whole bunch of stuff instead of just having the comic and whatnot. But yeah, so I want to like it, but I don't.
All right, let's go to the next one. Batgirl 24.
Cry.
Cry, cry, cried, cry.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Now, here is a swan song that was a complete success. I think.
It was
as a final issue.
Fantastic.
Holy cows.
Although I have an issue with the ending, but we'll get to that. But it was a great cap to what I thought was a fantastic series written by Brian Q. Miller and then the various artists, Lee Garbett, Dustin Nguyen, and my favorite, Perez.
Yeah.
On the art for the most part. I'm sure there were some other artists, but those are the three that leap to mind.
All right.
My God, I love this series so much.
Yep.
And it was one of those wonderful pleasures to discover it, midway through essentially. And then I fell in love with it so much I had to go buy all the back issues, even though I bought the first trade. I went back and got all the back issues and have just been enjoying the hell out of this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have this great cover featuring, I think, every major character that's appeared in the series. So some of them I don't recognize. I have to go back and read it, but you get all these characters. It's just a great, like I said, it's a great cap on what it was a fantastic series and a great Batgirl. Stephanie Brown as Batgirl has been wonderful, and I think has probably been, and no offense to, I know there's a lot of fans out there, and I know you were a fan of the previous version of Batgirl, whose name escapes me right now.
Cassandra Cain.
Yes, Cassandra Cain. There's a lot of Cassandra Cain fans out there, but
I was definitely one of them.
My money is on Stephanie Brown as far as the best Batgirl I've seen, probably at all, even more than Barbara Gordon.
Well, this Batgirl and the last Batgirl are so different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, I bought issue number 1 of Batgirl, this version of Batgirl when it came out, because I wanted to figure out what the hell happened to Cassandra Cain. And I read that first issue, and I was so pissed.
I remember that
she just drops her costume and freaking walks off, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
That I'm like, screw this. I'm gonna be one of those consumers that speaks with their money. I'm not buying this damn title because it was BS for them just to, get rid of a very interesting character who filled a lot of niches that the DC universe is woefully missing in, and replacing it with yet another blonde white girl. Granted, she's a girl because it can't be anything but that, being Batgirl, but still, I was very, very irritated, and so didn't pick it up for the longest time. And then me and my son decided to pick it up when we got tired of reading Legion, and it was like, I kept hearing it was pretty good, so we decided we'll get it. And oh man, as soon as we started reading it, was like, wow, we really screwed up not getting this. And so it was a mad dash to go back and pick up all the old stuff and whatnot. I agree with you. It's such a great book. It's Brian Q. Miller does such an awesome job of making her so charming and so genuine of a character and relatable. I think for anybody, doesn't matter whether you're a girl or a guy or whatever. Great. I mean, a real bummer that it got shut down.
Yeah.
And is getting replaced. Nothing against Gail Simone. I think Gail Simone's a great writer. I will be getting the new Batgirl because Gail's on it, and I'll also be getting the new Batgirl because, shame on me once for a new Batgirl title and me getting pissy about it. I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to give the next one a shot because, it may be great and wonderful too. Won't be this. And they've said that they're going to bring, Stephanie Brown is coming into the the new DC universe, but I
as
have
spoiler.
Sure, as spoiler, I don't think that matters so much. I mean, yeah, something about her is Batgirl, and that's part of her thing. But there's still enough of her personality that it doesn't matter to me what costume she's wearing.
Mm-hmm.
But my concern is the next writer going to be able to write this girl as awesome as Miller has?
No.
And that's going to be the shame. Because if whoever else is writing her doesn't bring this charm along with her, I won't have the same interest in the character, I don't think.
Exactly. I don't think that. I would like to think that any character can be written well given a good writer.
Sure.
But Brian Q. Miller has put such a, I won't say indelible, but very close to that stamp on this character that it's going to be really hard for me to accept somebody else writing it. Unlike, just almost every other Tom, Dick, and Harry can write Batman. Not necessarily well, but a lot of people can write Batman. I can't really see that going here. But maybe it's just because I'm so in love with this title, this character, Brian Q. Miller's rendition of her, and everything that goes on with it. Right now it's just really hard for me to see past that.
Well, I think if any other writer that's going to write it, you keep a key to her being what she is. If they keep those things moving forward, I think the character will still be there. I don't know that she obviously is good. If they keep some of the charm about her, and I think there are lots of writers that can probably do that, she will still be an enjoyable character.
It depends if they are imitating Miller or taking that and moving it forward. If they're just going to imitate him, then that won't work.
Right. Well, sure. But she has a sense of humor, and the whole inside-outside voice thing. Those are things I think that need to carry over into wherever the character goes. If you're writing the character from her perspective, if you drop those things, don't you lose the character? To me, anyway, it feels like those are central parts to her being who she is.
Yes, that's true.
So if you suddenly don't have that monologue going on, you've lost the character, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, and so
I don't think they're going to write any more books with her being from her perspective for any great amount of time.
No.
She's going to end up in a book with a bunch of other people or whatever is what's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, but with her coming back as spoiler, I like to think that perhaps, because with Barbara Gordon still having been incapacitated by the Joker,
right,
for a while, maybe that's where we get Steph as Batgirl for a short period, or Cassandra. I don't know, but I like to think maybe Steph did step into the Batgirl costume for a little bit.
Well, right.
And so we kind of have these stories. Who knows? But
it'll be curious to see. It'll be curious to see if they answer that. That's one of the reasons I'm getting the next Batgirl. I'm curious to see if they answer. I mean, they did answer. Yeah. They did answer Cassandra Cain, shucking the costume, and they even answered it further later on in the Road Home comics.
Mm-hmm.
And have you read that one yet? Have you gotten that?
Yes. Yeah.
Where it further explains that basically Cassandra Cain was following instructions from Bruce as to what was supposed to happen with the. Great that I guess that Bruce has that much control over everybody that after he's dead they'll follow him to that degree. But I mean that's a different conversation probably. But explained it further, which I thought was interesting and whatnot. I hope so. I'm curious to see if in the next title they explain if Stephanie was Batgirl for any period of time, mm-hmm. how come it is that she gave the mantle up to give it back to the original. Other than I can see why you might do that. But I hope if they do and they show us that, they show her giving it back, that I hope Gail writes that with some level of sensitivity because obviously being Batgirl means a lot to Stephanie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if anybody can do it well, I think it's Gail.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about this. So basically the first part of the story is just Steph and her dad, the Clue Master, talking, and we find out he's been kind of behind some things that's been going on in these latest issues. And then he exposes her to the Black Mercy, which is that alien flower that we first saw in the oh gosh, was it a Superman annual
I think so.
written by Alan Moore?
Yeah.
That classic.
Yeah.
And then they also adapted it for the Justice League, I think Unlimited series, which was an awesome story. So we get this alien flower, and she gets exposed to it.
She gets dosed.
Which that's basically that's the setup for the end of this thing. And then she wakes up in the hospital. So and then she has a conversation with her mom, and we get a nice little resolution to that whole thing.
Right.
Robin, Damien sees her from the window, or she sees him from the window, and he salutes her. I'm like,
awesome.
Which, okay, we'll come back to that because there's something I want to say about that.
Okay.
Other than that, freaked me out a little bit.
Really?
Well, I'll come back to it just a second. And then, and then she has a nice conversation with Barbara, and considering how the series started with both of them as a team,
right.
That was a nice thing. And then we get these great splash pages.
Yeah.
Of the adventures of Stephanie with other folks while under the influence of the Black Mercy. So she lived this life all the way through college graduation, having a kid, and then
all these other different incarnations of where she could have been. Because obviously, the whole fantasy one and were there lanterns, for instance?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, see, I kind of read that as sort of sequential.
You think so?
Yeah.
I guess it could have been, yeah.
But then you get to that last splash page, which it looks like her as an older character, but then it looks like somebody else in the Batgirl. So maybe it is. Maybe it's just alternate realities that she was experiencing throughout. But up to a point, I read it as sort of sequential.
Well, I think even that last page is probably sequential.
It could be.
She's moved on to being the next Nightwing, and
right, and then, yeah, yeah. I had
somebody else
that way.
She's helping somebody else take on the
Batgirl, and maybe it's. I mean, well, the one where it shows her and presumably her kid, is that that's a boy? Yeah, it's a boy. Because at first I thought, well, maybe that's her daughter there as Batgirl, which would be kind of a nice way to end that. But yeah, you get these great splash pages, and then this conversation with Barbara, and then she goes off into the sunset.
Right.
And it's very emotional for me anyway. A very emotional way to end this, considering how much I just fell in love with this character in this title. So it was awesome.
Oh yeah, it was
very awesome. And I wanted to bring up. So I tweeted to Brian Q. Miller that I can't remember if I actually said him or not. But anyway, or tweeted him directly or not. But I said something about I keep putting it off. I keep putting off reading this last issue because I don't want the title to end. And he responded with, "Pull the Band-Aid."
Pull the Band-Aid. Yep.
But by the time I'd read that, I already had, and thought it was great. And also, I said, so I'm going to name drop a little bit here again, Brian Q. Miller. So when I was cataloging some other comics that I just got for cheap at Hastings, the Road Home one-shots. So I got some of those and realized, I don't have all of them. I'm still missing two. And one of them is the Batgirl one-shot featuring Brian Q. Miller as writer, of course, and Perry Perez on the art. I'm like, so I tweeted that. I said, how do I not have this comic? Because it's featuring the two creators on this title that I really love. And he tweeted back. I don't know if you saw this, but he tweeted back, and I love this love him for this. He said, if I had a copy, if I still had a copy, I'd send you one. I thought that was really awesome.
Yeah. No, I didn't catch that. I normally catch most of those things, but no, I caught that one. That's cool.
Oh, it was. I love the guy. Whatever he writes now for comics, I'm going to pick it up.
Yeah, see, that's kind of where I'm at too. Until he proves something wrong.
Oh, right. But yeah, but in my mind right now, he's like Gail Simone.
Now, see, he wrote. Correct me if I'm wrong. He wrote. Hate to say it, the stupid show. What was it? The superhero show. Didn't he write a bunch?
Superhero. Smallville.
Yeah, didn't he write a bunch
Yes,
of books?
he was involved in that. Don't blame him, or don't. What am I trying to say here?
Judging him by that?
Don't hold that against him.
Well, no, I'm not going to. But it just blows my mind because to
I know.
me, now I've never watched the show consistently, but I watch it occasionally, and to me it just seems so vapid and vacant, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But I mean, I know it's a completely different thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, well, he's definitely proven, at least on this title, at least he is a good comic book writer.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to him trying something else, something besides Steph Brown as Batgirl. So, and I know he's got some things in the works, but he hasn't. There's been no announcements, so
Right.
it'll be nice to see what that is actually. Before we move on, I wanted to ask you this, and I mentioned before the whole Damien thing saluting her,
Uh-huh.
get me out.
Uh-huh.
So you go along here in the story, and Steph passes out from being exposed to Black Mercy,
Right.
and then she wakes up,
Mhm.
and this is the scene where her mom is there at the hospital, and they have that nice conversation. So you're reading along, and like, oh, that's really sweet. You know, she actually, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, real easy resolution to this problem. But I understand why they want to do it this way because it's the last issue and all this. So I'm kind of
Right.
forgiving of losing that dramatic tension of her being exposed, and then suddenly it's the problem's resolved.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm reading along, and then that's when I get to Damien and her saluting her, and I think, wait a minute,
Maybe she still does.
she's still dosed.
Yeah.
And so I'm reading along, and so she has this nice conversation with Barbara, and then we get to see what Steph's thinking about all these adventures
Uh-huh.
while under the influence of Black Mercy, and that's all great. And then we get the splash pages, and there's and you can see Black Mercy somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's either overtly there as flowers, or it's in the background as graffiti, or it's
Right. It's in every. It's in every.
it's in every splash page here.
Mhm.
And then you get to the end where she's talking to Barbara, and I'm thinking she's still under the influence. But having looked at this again while we were both talking about it, that scene in the hospital and the scene at the end with Barbara, there is no Black Mercy that I can see.
Right.
But it was when I got to Damien, and
You
I
thought, oh no, it's going to end with her being whacked on Mercy the whole rest of the issue.
exactly. So I got there and I thought that she's still under the influence. There's no way that Damien would be that nice to her.
So you think that's out of character?
Well, considering the adventures that they've had in this book and others where they've teamed up, maybe not. Especially the last time they got together, where she helped him learn to be
Play?
to learn to play.
Right.
So I can see that, yes, but still, the fact that he would go out of his way and salute her like that, I thought, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. And the whole reason I'm bringing this up is that me thinking that made the story a little bit less for me.
Oh.
But if I go with the idea that yes, she was rescued from it, the story goes up a notch for me.
Yeah,
So
yeah, see, I didn't come away from it thinking that oh my gosh, maybe she's still dosed, because that doesn't seem out of character for Damien, for me. But then I read most of the Bat titles, and I like Damien as a character, and I thought he was he is a snot lots of times, but all of the writers have done very well at consistently, slowly making him a little more than just I'm going to be the best kick-ass assassin that there is. He's slowly becoming a little more of a human as opposed to, the monster that he originally was. And I think that, when she has where's the page? When she makes the comment that I guess Lauren Curl really can make a difference, huh? Never forget that. And then there's Damien. She made a difference to him.
That's true.
They hint in all the other comics that he really does care for Alfred. He really does care for Dick. It's not just a matter that they're his possessions, they're his minions. He's moved beyond that, and he does actually care for these people. Back in those comics where the bad stuff was happening, and Alfred was drowning and whatnot. He was concerned. He told his dad, "Hey, you better make sure you save Alfred back in the the road home stuff and whatnot." So I didn't think that was out of character at all. And so for me, when I read it, I was like, that's awesome. There's a little chink in his cold persona that he actually does care what's happening to what's happening to her and whatnot. He's moved beyond simply being competitive with her, like he still is with he's got other issues with Cassandra Cain as the Black Bat in the Gates of Gotham comic. I don't know if you're still reading that or not, but he's real competitive with her and whatnot because he hasn't moved past what she represents.
She hasn't proven herself to him.
Right. I think that it's one thing that the editors, I'll say it's the editors because I don't know who else is responsible for that, have done a very good job with that character in particular throughout all the Bat books of him having slow growth and whatnot, and I think it's really interesting.
Well, having now talked through this again and with you, I will choose, and I think there's evidence in the pages to support this, is that yes, she's not under the influence of the Black Mercy at the end of this book.
I hope not.
And that makes the story just all the more, it's bittersweet and beautiful, and a great way to end it. And say goodbye to this character, at least this incarnation of the character for now. So
hey, did you read? Have you seen his script for this issue?
No.
Where he describes these big splash pages to the artist and what should be in it.
Oh,
I'll have to find that. I don't know if it's on. If you hunt back through like DC Women Kicking Ass. Their Tumble page, go back through it. Somebody somewhere, and I'm pretty sure that's probably where it is. He gave this script up, at least this part of it, and described these scenes to the artist, and they're interesting.
Ooh, I need to find that.
Basically, what he did was, to some degree, it sounds like, if I remember correctly, was these are stories. Well, some of them. I mean, not the Lantern one, but to some degree, these encapsulate some of the stories that he was thinking about writing in the future.
Ah.
And so it was like, well, I can't write them, so
might as well throw them in here.
Here they are. Let's put as much of that in as we can.
That is awesome. Oh, I want to read that comic.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Oh my God.
My son, I think his favorite panel of all of these is the one where they're lanterns.
Yeah, that was good.
Where Damien's all raging and whatnot.
Yeah, that makes total. And she's Hope. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Barbara's Will. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh my God, I got to go find that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where I read it at. I can't imagine where else I read it.
I wonder how much it would cost me to pay him to write those issues out. Just give me the scripts.
Yeah, lots. Like he's got,
I shall ask him.
Yeah, and I absolutely love the fact that he managed to squeeze in here also a page that has all of the, basically all of the Batgirls in it.
Yeah.
With the Blackhawks.
Yes.
So it's got Cassandra, it's got Barbara.
I would have loved to have read that one.
Well, yeah, a lot of us.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool, so cool. And you know what? It's funny you say that. I'm glad you brought that up because we'll talk about this later. But it seemed like that James Robinson did the same exact thing in the last JLA issue.
Yeah.
It's like, here's all these ideas I was going to explore, but I don't have the chance. So here, boom. You get one-page descriptions of what it could have been.
That whole story arc, right? Yeah. This arc was going to be this, and this arc was going to be that. But
that is awesome.
In this book, though, this Batgirl book, the best ending I've ever seen of a title. I can't think of another title that's had the opportunity to actually end the book and end it as well as this. And so when we talk about the Secret Six, I've got a completely different opinion on that book than I do on this.
You spoiled it. We're supposed to rank how these ended.
Oh.
I never said that to you, but
nothing beats this book.
Okay, well, you know what? I agree with you.
I cannot think of a title that has had the ability to end its book and end it as beautifully and as charming as this book. Because this book has just been that way all the way through, and it absolutely did not fail one bit in this book, in this issue. It absolutely did not fail at all.
Well said. Well put. And with that, let's take a break.
Okay.
Actually, Travis and I ended up talking for quite a while about some more final DC titles, as well as some new Marvel titles that we both read. So I decided to split up the episode into a couple different chunks, at the very least, depending on how long the episode ends up being when I finally edit it. So this is the end of part 1 of our discussion. Please come back and listen to episode 8, which will be part 2. Thanks for listening.